All right, so now let's look at the assignment solution. So from there, I'll confirm if we did the right thing or not. Because I need to be on the same page with you guys. So assignments. Solution. So I want to tag this as assignment 1 because we have different assignments. So make sure you are labeling like that also. Solutions. So what was the first question we asked? All right. Now, there was something that I taught us some time ago, which is Markdown. But we got it through shortcut. I want to show us another way you can actually achieve it, though you are still adopting some of those procedures, how we converted comment to a plain note, right? You still remember, we press escape, right? And then press letter M, and then that changed the color to blue. Now, next time you can do it as well like this. You can come to your code, you can come here and select what? So that M, that's why we type that M. So that M represents what? Markdown. Then after that, you can press Shift and what? Enter to become what? A comment. Okay. Now, the first, read out the question first, as in where I don't want the complete write-up. Just give me where I pointed out the hints. Okay, read the Excel so that will guide me. The first question is what? That is number 1 is to read Excel data format, right? Was that the question? Data formats into a pandas, right? Pandas data frame. That is the first question. Now, if I click on this place here now, and I press letter B, that is duplicate, letter B. I just duplicated what? Additional cell. Just click on it and press what? Letter B. Now, the next question, I just want to highlight all the questions before I start taking them one after the other. What is the next question? Check the number of what? That's what I have here. Check the numbers of rows and what? Columns. Is that all? Yeah. Now, let me use this for this should be the, sorry, I supposed to have written a number 2, right? This is the second question. And then this should be third question. What's the third question? Determine. That is what I have here. Mrs. said. Determine the row, right? The row and what? The row granularity. Determine the row granularity. Should be expecting my question now. Tell me what is row granularity very soon. Okay, you have already, you're prepared for me. I never asked finished. Okay, no problem. Okay, so row what? Granularity needed, right? Row granularity needed. So that was my third question. Then the fourth question, I think I have about up to 6, right? Fourth question is apply the correct, right? The correct data frame, right? Data frame transformation. So as I'm doing it now, you will tell me whether you got number 1. Once I provide the answer for number 1, you check it with your own. Now, I think I need to add more. What did I say again? To add more cell, I will just click here, type what? Letter B. Now, the next one is, that should be number 5. Save the transform, right? Or transformation. Transformation. Save the transformation as. So this is supposed to be save the transformed. Let's use that word. That is the one, the copy you have already changed or perfected. As what? As a new data frame. A new data frame. So the sixth question is what? Check the number, right? The number of rows and columns. Then I give us hints that one of the things that will tell you whether you are correct is that data sets, hints. So I provided this so that you know if you're on the right track. Data set, right? Data set, sorry, the new data set should, or data frame, you see the same, should what? Should have 150 rows. All right, so now let's quickly solve them one after the other. I want to start with the first one. The first one is to create a variable. So let's say, let me go to where I have outlined it. So I will just come in here. So I will just say what? Solution. So the first thing is to create a variable, call it what? Entertainment. Because the data we are asked to read from the data source, right, is an entertainment what? Data. So I will name it entertainment equals to, remember that we are reading a set what? Data set, right? Data format. So therefore, we have to call the library, which is what? The PD dot read underscore what? Excel. And then we will now call the data. Now the data is already in Excel format. So let's go back to our Jupyter Notebook home directory and open what? Data folder, right? I hope I give us the data. Open what? Data folder. Now this is the data we want to read. This very one that is in what? Excel. Now I will right click on it and copy what? Parts. I will copy the parts, then switch back to my analysis notebook. That particular part you copy is a string. And remember the programming rule for storing what? String. They must be what? Quoted, right? So you paste it inside. Then if I run the code, you will notice that it will output directory error. If you go to the key error, what is saying that what? No such file or directory found. So that gives me an insight to what the problem could be. So the problem is that the notebook is finding it difficult to navigate to where the data is. So I will shorten the process by using relative method. That is what? Using the objects that data is related to. So once you can find that object, then you should be able to what? To detect the data. So I will delete the first root and put what? 2 period, 1, 2, which means that what? You have to go 2 steps backward to get what? Where the data is. So if I run it, accepted. If it is not, then I will consider another option. Accepted. Once your cell is able to read a value, it means that what? The function or the script has been successfully executed. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to display the, let me use comment, to display or to view the data frame. To view the data frame, I'll simply call what? The name of the data frame. Control C, then come down, and then I'll Control V, then you run it. So here is the what? The data, which is what? 600 rows. Sorry, 600, yeah, 600 rows with 3 what? Column. So you can see that I told us in our last class that under unsupervised machine learning, one of the things you do when you are given data is to try to reduce the height and increase the what? The width. That such a format is best passed into what? Predictive analysis model. And what we are doing all this while falls under what? Data cleaning, data reshaping, data perfection. We are trying to reconstruct the data because we have an idea of the model we would like to supply this what? Data into. And the way it's given to us, it cannot what? Match that model. So now, I believe we have answered the first question, which says that what? Read Excel data format into Pandas data frame. All right, so let's find out something. Remember, there was other techniques that I expected that by now you should have mastered. For example, if I want to view, I don't want to view everything. So let me use comment to add that. To view only first 4 or 5 records from this particular data set. How do I achieve that? I will just use what? The name of the, to become what? Entertainment, right? Entertainment, because there are times that you may not be interested in viewing everything. You just want to view certain record from a data frame. So we just simply call the name dot what? Head. You put the name of, you run it like this to show you only what? The first 4, right? Now, if I want to view the first 100, because from what we saw, when we display the entire data, we got 600, right? So if I want to display the 100, I will now put the number, whatever number I want to view inside the function what? Parentheses bracket. So if I run it now, yeah, no, I think it has upgraded. No limit again. You know, initially I told you it can only display what? 64. But now it's going beyond what? 64. They are upgrading their library every time. Okay, so we have answered the first question. Any question? Okay, so if there is no question, we look at what? The techniques involved to check the number of what? Rows and columns. So what is the solution here? Solution here is to use, solution here is use dot what? Shape. Is it an attribute or a function? How do you differentiate an attribute from a function? A function does not have what? Or let's say an attribute has
the name part and the what? The value part. It is an attribute that carries equals to then with the value section, which you need to quote with the what? The string icon. So now I will simply call entertain, right? Entertain. Now there is a point I want to bring in here. I want to type entertain, but I'm considering the name is too long. I don't want to go and copy. So once I type ENT and I press the tab button. Hope you can locate your tab button. That button is written tab. You press it 2 times. It will pop up what? The name of the variable you are about to call. Then you will just press what? Enter. So it saves you from where you have a very long name as your data frame. Did you understand what I just did now? So just type the first 2 letters. No, 2 times, the tab. ET. Just type, I type ET and then tab twice. Tab twice. Tab is not located that aspect, that location you are going to screen. Tab is on this side. You are using American laptop, all those Indian laptop. Okay. Just press it twice. Can you see it now? So it will pop up what? The name. You press enter. Good. So that is a kind of logic we can use to invoke the name of our what? Data frame. Instead of us copying and pasting or typing it, where the name is long, like we have it now as entertainment. Now, we will just concatenate the method, the attribute, right? Shape. Does it have parenthesis bracket? No. So you run it. So that gives us an idea of the total numbers of what? Rows. So this particular data frame has what? 600 records and what? 3 columns. So we have answered what? Question 2. So now let's go to question 3, solution. Solution to question 3. What does question 3 say? Determine the row granularity. Determine the row granularity. So here, we are going to do something. Determine the row granularity. So let's do something here, e.g. Because if, let me use comment to explain what I want to do here. So let's say e.g., let's say we are asked to do this. E.g., display name equals to Emily, because I believe we have that particular data there. Equals to what? Emily. We have that as one of the names, right? Now, remember that the whole essence of rows granularity is one of the techniques in unsupervised what? Machine learning, which is used to what? To represent a unique name or a unique record in one row instead of what? Duplicating it. Now, I want to find out whether there are places where Emily is repeated. Let's say we have Emily in 5 different rows, so that we know whether there is need for us to convert the whole of the 5 rows into what? 1, which will end up reducing the what? The height of the data and end up increasing the what? The width of the data. So here, I just want to use a technique that I feel you know to perform that, to find out. At times, you can just call one person. So what is the syntax I'm going to use to achieve this? So the syntax is going to be entertain, because you are calling that record from where? Entertain. Entertain, I will use that same logic, et, and then tap what? 2 times, right? And get the entire name. Entertain, select from our data analysis class. By now, you should know the concept of using what? Square bracket, which is used what? To select only a set of what? Record based on the criteria defined. Are you with me? Okay. Now, remember that the header So you now call the entertain. That is what? The entertain is the data frame. Then you need to reference the entertain again, which is the name of the data set, inside the selection bracket, tab 2 times, and then what? Press enter to save your time. We use a method like this. Then concatenate, which is what? Dot name. Because where you want to call that value from, the label is what? Name. If I go up now, look at the label here. The label is what? Name. The way it's written here, lowercase, right? So I will just what? I'll type name, then equals to. Remember from that class, you should also know what this equals to mean. In programming, I told us that 2 equal sign means what? Equality. 1 means what? Assignment. Now, the value you are selecting, is it a string or a number? If it is a number, you just type it. If it is a string, it must be quoted. Then you call exactly the way that name is entered. So for me, I like what? Copy it from the data set if I can access it. So Control C, then go back to and paste it here. There's a timeout here. Let me zoom out and zoom in. So I paste. So now if I run it now, if I run this particular code, what is going to output? It will output only Emily what? Record. This is a task you might be asked to perform. Let's say you are given a data set and you want to analyze how many. Do you know that we have answered one powerful analysis question? Supposing I want to analyze how many Emily records we even have. This could be a customer where you are arguing how many times this person has what? Performed transaction with you. So you can run this code and pull out only that particular customer detail. From here, it's easy for you to what? To count how many of them. So I'll give us a few minutes to also. All right. So, but this is not actually the question, or this is not the task we want to perform. So I want to use the task we actually want to perform is I want to see the numbers of times, the numbers of hours, Emily played video game. Let me break it here. Let me reduce how we can see it. It's not too small. Played video games. Each week, comma, the numbers of hours she watch TV show. So this is actually what you are looking at. So what we did here is just to call out the total number what she appear in the whole of what that data set. So how do we now achieve what our aim is? Since we are saying that our motive is not just to display what, how many Emily records are in the data frame. Our motive is we want to know how many hours Emily played video games each week and the number of hours she watched what? TV show. So to solve that, the syntax will be, I hope you are comparing them with your own solution. So we are going to use one of the commonly used row granularity methods. What are the two methods I gave us? Dot group by and what? Pivots, right? So we are going to answer this question with what? Dot pivot. So I will simply say entertain, tab, entertain, dot pivot. Dot pivot, we have already learned the structure of this code. Define the what? Index equals to string. Now, the criteria for summarizing the total number of video games she played and TV shows she watched is based on the name, right? So the name is what? Your index. Remember from our last class when we were implementing what? How to use pivots. That is the criteria. Then I also said that you can wrap everything in parenthesis brackets so that you can break it. But let me just write everything straight. Then comma, then you have to define the column name, which carries the criteria for knowing the total number of what? Games she played. So we have to introduce what? Columns attributes. And then the attribute will now be, if you check this now, let's go back here. Is the entertainment based on what you want to achieve? Video game, right? So the video game as a value, which is the criteria for checking for Emily, is under what? Entertainment what? Heading. So what I will simply do is to copy this heading to avoid typographical error, and then simply go back to where I am implementing it. Here, I don't know, each time I copy. So this is also a string, and then paste it. Now, you have to reference a value. You have to reference a header with number to enable you to do the counting. And remember your task says, let's go back to the task again. The numbers of what? Hours she watched to watch TV show. So this is where you have what? Remember you mentioned per week, right? Hour what? Per week. So which means that we need to also what? Take this. We need to take this as another attribute. So we will use what? Value. Values equals to string and paste. Now we can now run it and see the result. So let's see if it's accepted. This is the outcome of what we just applied now. So you can see that now you have reduced. But this data is not well structured. I showed us how you can, display your ID, right? To have a better presentation. What did I say you should do? You add what? Dot what? Reset index. Where are we adding it? Is it after the function? Here, right? So we just say what? Dot what? Reset underscore index. You said? So we have it listed properly now. Huh? The index is supposed to be 0. Okay, the header, right? I'm here to decode your observation. This entertainment here supposed to act as So we have name, we have books, we have what? Movie, we have movies, we have TV show. But was it displaying well before we added it? Okay, let me just remove it first, right? Let me know if that was giving us proper view. If that. So which one is better? Is optional. Which display is better? This one? Okay, so let's stay on it. Let's stay on it. It's not compulsory that you actually do that. So let's quickly apply this before or is this exactly what you did? Okay, well, you got it like this now. What about you, sir? Your assignment, did you got it? Is it the same? Is it the value you got? Check, because. Okay, all right. So that is a number what now? That is number 3. Determine the row what? Granularity, right? Then number 4 is what? Apply the correct what? Data frame. So that is what we have done now. So in this question, this is supposed to be what? Number 4. What do you do on that number 4? So this is number 4. This is number 4. So number 5 is what? Number 5, we have answered it. Look at it. Now we now have what? 150, which was what I gave you as hints. So once you have applied this, the record will reduce from 600 to what? 150. And now we have also increased what? The number of columns to 4, which is what? The definition of what? Row granularity. Reducing the height, increasing the what? The width. So if there's no question, we cannot proceed to today's topic. So let's assume that the assignment issue is settled, right? All right, so let me quickly clear all this since we did not later use them. Okay, so let me just. The shape, exactly, good. Yeah, it's just that we perform them in one of the row. So this is our, so this is where we are starting today properly. So here, preparing column, because what we have been doing is we're preparing rows. So you know that that's called row what? Granularity, not column. So column preparation is also part of what? Data is also part of the data what? Prep. It's not just preparing what? The column. There are instances where the columns are not well arranged. Something could be wrong with the column. So you need to also understand the machine learning what? Unsupervised skills for preparing what? The column as well. So the topic here is column what? Preparation. Or let's say, yeah, we can also use that. Column preparation. For modeling, remember that all these are still under what? Data modeling. For modeling, so let me use the markdown process, escape, and then just come here and select what? Markdown. So that has saved you from pressing what? Letter M. Then you now press what? 2 times. If the first shift and enter could not convert it, press it again. So now the first task here, so let's write this note. Let's write this note. I would like to use comments. We did not complete what? No, not your assignment to. Please, you switch back to, do you have another page where you were working before? No, you cannot actually continue there. You have to continue here. Because if you continue over there, the assignment history will not be there. And this thing is a process. most of the things that we have settled now under assignment, we will refer to them later. So if you are performing them in different places, it will be difficult for you. So let's continue this in your assignment. After all, you have done the assignment. Yeah, continue this particular one now in your assignment, except if you have this assignment history also over there. So just take down these notes. So after setting the row granularity, after setting the row granularity command, you need to prepare your columns for modeling. So what are the things we are expected to achieve while preparing our column for modeling? So here, what to pay attention to while preparing data frame. Preparing data frame column. One, all values. All values should be null. All values should be not null. Now, under this, this is my keyboard, and the place is dark. Struggling with the key. If I on the lights now, people will not be seeing the screen again. No, what? Null. So this should be under, you can use bullets because of I'm using electronic node. This should be as a number one, under number one, different adjustments we are expected to make, which falls under, for us to achieve all values should be what? Null. So the first one is identify missing. So in the process of achieving this, you are going to be identifying missing, which is also known as null. So that null means what? When we say what? Null, which means that what? There should not be what? Missing value. That's what we are saying. So it's part of what we should ensure. That now look at it here now. You can see we have what? NA. So that's the reason why you need to adopt the column preparation skill to correct this type of error. Values using .info. Using .info or .isna. I think we have discussed some of these things even in our data analysis class. So this is part of what you are going to be doing under what? Number one, to ensure. So this is the second option. So we are still highlighting a different operation to perform just to find out, to check whether you have what? Null or missing value. The next one is going to be resolve Then we are going to be resolving them or resolve them by either removing them or imputing values. So the choice is up to us. So once we find missing value, we are either going to say, okay, we want to delete them from the data set, or we want to what? Impute what? Value. But remember, removing them will not be an option at times because there might be other value in that column, right? That might be useful for other analysis. So number two, under preparing our data column, number two, we are going to ensure that all values should be numeric, because these are the requirements to pass your data into analysis model, particularly if it is predictive analysis model, which is the core aspect of data science. So how are we going to achieve or what are the operations that are involved under just like we did? So the first one is we are going to be convert field. So we are going to be converting field. Where a field is telling us that it's a number, meanwhile it's a string, we're going to convert it. Converting fields from tests data type to numeric data type. Because there are times you run .info. Text could be read as what? Objects. So this is where you have to change it on, and until you change that type, which is assumed by Python. So the right data type, if you pass it into predictive analysis model, it will reject. That is why you need to engage in this. So the second operation under preparing our column will be turning field into numeric field using conditional logic with np dot where. All these are functions. Dot where. So another operation we shall be performing under preparing column is turning. No, yes, number three under what? Number two. Option, not number three. We are still under number two. Different operations that we are going to perform under each of them is what I'm highlighting. So turning categorical fields. Turning categorical fields using dummy variable. The what we call dummy variable. Dummy variable.
later.
So turning categorical field into what? Numeric field. Using what? Dummy what? Variable. Using dummy variable. So let's start with the first one out of what we have highlighted as the operation we are going to be involved in order for us to do what? To prepare our columns for modeling. So let me start with the first one. The first one is identifying missing value. So this is an operation that is under ensuring that all value should not be what? Or no value should be missing. So identifying missing value. So when you are given data set, how do we identify missing value? So note here, we can identify missing value. To save my time, let me just, you can be writing them in your notes. Let me dictate some of this session. After writing the topic, you can write these notes. I don't want to, because we are behind the time. Note under that heading, you can identify missing value or data. You can identify missing value or data. Are you with me? You can identify missing value or data. You are writing it now, your note, identifying. Is that how you write it in your notebook if you are fast, or in your own notes? Then later you transfer it. Just to save our time, because ordinarily I'm supposed to write it there, but I feel it to take our time. To identify missing value, I say you can identify missing value or data with the .info. So let me just brief here using .info. So using .info, or like we stated earlier, or what? Is now, or is now. So the first thing we are going to do is to copy this raw information. This is the best advice. Before you start tampering with the data, you want to copy the raw one. In case you spoil it, you can always revert towards to the raw data. That is the best practice. Before you start working on any data, just make sure that you generate what? A copy. Now, just for us to know the techniques on how to generate a copy, so I'll put it in my comment as create raw, or let's just what? Make a copy. Make a copy with .copy function. So there is a function called what? .copy, which can help you to copy it. Now you have to define the variable of the what? The source. So I can maintain, so in this case, this is customer. So I can say, come in. Okay, so let's say this one is customer. Customer is equals to . The raw data set is, hope you are working with the same data. Just give me a few minutes. Let me know. I don't want to miss them all. Yes, yes, good. I have not loaded because I can't continue with this very one. So the first step is let's load it first because yeah. Yes, no, don't worry, let's use it. So load, I think I've given us all the data now, right? Load the customer data to perform this column preparation. Because that's where we have enough what? NAN. So we are looking for a data that have what? NAN. So this very one now, we're not going to have what? NAN. The reason why you have that NAN is because of what? The way we change the structure. So originally, there are NAN in this customer data. So to load the customer data, we will simply say customer is equals to PD dot. So let's go to our directory to check if it's a CSV data or Excel data. So this is it here, CSV. So customers. So let me load it with that same name. So dot CSV, that is what? Read underscore CSV. As usual. So at times, you may not need to copy parts once you know the name. So the name is what? Customers. So I can simply do it like this. Customer dot CSV. Well, let me check whether the customer, the first letter is capital letter. Okay, it's lowercase. So I can also read it like this. No such directory, customer. Okay, so if I'm having this issue, to be on the saver side, it's like I did not add S to the spelling of customer. That is the reason. I have S. Okay, so let me just copy it to save my time. Copy parts. Then I paste. So if you see saying the same thing, let me use the relative method to see that we solve it. Okay, so accepted. So in some cases, you can just work with just the name. If it doesn't work, that is why you have to know all these options. So now for me to view the data now, I will just type what? Customers. Now using the logic I gave us the other time, I will just type what? CU what? S and tap what? 2 times. Instead of me typing it in full, I will just run it. So this is the data set. So you can see that we have a lot of what? NAN under some column, and we don't have it in some column. So this is the best data for us to actually what? Ensure or to practice how to ensure you don't have what? Missing value. So let me pause here to allow us to call in the data before we proceed, because I want us to be doing this. All right, so now remember our objective, why we brought in this data is for us to be able to have errors. We will have called a data set without any error. But if we are running all this function, you will not see their impact. And that is why we decided to call it. If you open the data set in Excel, you will agree with me that all those cells showing any error, they are empty cells. So Python translated them to what? Not a number, which means what? Missing value as far as Python is concerned. So like I told us, when I was highlighting the operation under number 1, I said it is left to us whether we want to remove them or we want to what? Impute value to replace them. In this case now, you cannot delete the whole of this column. just because you have what? Two cells with what? NaN. You will need this 12 to perform some what? Calculation. The machine will need this 12 to predict what? Accurately. So let's quickly look at so the first thing we are going to do, since we have loaded the data, I think our first step has been observed. We have loaded the data. Now we want to identify, we want to run .info, which I told us that it is used to know whether you have what? NaN. So you cannot assume just because you are using this very small data set, because there might be a situation whereby your notebook will not be able to display all the data. So you don't assume that there is no NaN. That is why we need to run dots. So which means that what? We need to check. So how to check for missing values. How to check for missing values using the .info method. So the syntax for applying this, the syntax is going to be the customer, right? The CUS tab twice, enter. Concatenate it with the method info. So that will give us a comprehensive summary of the entire data set. Now, let me ask you, because we are not novice. We have graduated from data analysis class before coming for this machine learning. How do you use .info to know whether there are missing values? How do you know? Based on this present, how do you know which of these attributes here or which part of this analysis tells you as a data scientist that for me to see this and that there is missing value or there are missing value? From where? No, what? No. You are seeing 8 here, but you are seeing what? 6 here. We are supposed to be having what? 8, 8, 8, 8. So where you have 8 all true, it means that what? There are no missing value. So with this now, I have already know that what? Under H, there are 2 missing values. Under what? Followers, there are what? 3 what? Missing value. Now I have also been able to identify under which columns I need to what? Prepare. So I know that I have some work to do under what? Column H and column what? Followers. So I said alternatively, we can also alternatively, if I don't want to use this method, we can also use what? What is now to also find out if we have a missing value. So what is going to be the syntax if I'm using the dots is now? So the syntax will also be the name of the data frame, cost, tab 2 times, press enter. Then concatenates it with what? The method, which is what? Is now. So if I run it, what I get here is not, though it's good, but if I have a very large data set, there will be an issue. If I have a data set that is large, such that some records are wrapped as we used to have it, I am not going to see all the places where I have output equals to what? True, which means that what? There is a missing value there. So under follower, I have how many places where I have true? 1, 2, 3, which means that what? I have 3 cells without value. But if the data is larger than this, it now will not be the best method. So we are going to apply what? .any together with the ISNA for us to call out only value where, or only column where there are what? Missing value. So we can't depend on this where we have a large data set. So that will now take us to adding. So let's say what? How to display only rows with what? Missing values. How to display only rows with missing values. So what will be the syntax? So let me add this using, so that you know what I want to be involved. Using dot ISNA and what? And dot any. Dot any. So you're going to combine these two functions for you to be able to what? To pull out only rows where at least there is what? Missing value. So what will be the syntax? So the syntax here will now be the name of the data frame, which is what? Let me just go this way. The name of the data set, customer. From customer, select. From customer, select customer again. Customer again. Dot ISNA. Dot ISNA. Then while you are still inside the square bracket, you now do dot what? Any is a function. We complete it. Now, because you are calling values in rows, you have to add the as is equals to 1. So this as is equals to 1, which is an attribute, is to tell Python that you are calling value in what? Rows. So if I run it now, you will see that what? It calls out only rows where at least there's a missing value. So at row name harmony, there is what? Missing value. That's why it calls it. Then at row melody, there is also what? Missing value. That's why it calls it out. Then at row Selena, there is what? Missing value. And then what? Stephanie. So this, even if the data is up to 1 billion data, you will not be able to what? To know the rows with what? Missing value. So let me allow us to get here. I know people like Pinette, they have already implemented it. So all right, so that settles that. Now, so now that we have the data now, before we start handling the missing value, that is where we now want to decide whether we want to delete them or we want to what? Replace them. Let's quickly save the raw data. I don't know if we have, so we can always access the raw data, but just for us to understand that you can actually copy data easily here. So this one is customer. So I can give the one I want to save as my raw data. I can give it a different name. So let me just add that here so that you can also understand that technique. So how to copy an existing data frame within the notebook. Within the notebook. That is here. So what I will simply do as my syntax will now be, I will create a new variable. Let's say this one is customer. Let me know. The other one is what? I have S, right? Okay, let's say customer underscore Rob. Just to differentiate it, equals to, you now call the one you are copying, which is customer, dot copy. So this is what you need. So with this, it will copy it automatically and store it here. So if I run it now, so right now, the whole of this data has been copied or duplicated and stored here. So if I come here now and I call course, CU, and then tab, then I choose the one I want to implement, and then run it. So I have it here now, like this. So you have already saved that one. You can, You said? Rename, right?
Rename.
Yes, I rename. If I don't rename, it will override the other one. So I have to rename. Okay. So now let's quickly consider this next topic. Probably that will be the last topic for today. Handling missing value. Now let's go to where we outline our objective as a way of preparing our column. Remember, under number 1, we said what? All values should be what? Done. And what we say are the operation we are going to perform. Identify what? Missing value. Have we done that? Yes. Are there missing value? Yes. The next one, I say what? Resolve them by either removing them or what? Imputing value. Have you done that? No. Now, doing this means you want to start what? Temporary with them. You want to start, replacing or deleting. And that is why the next topic is handling missing value. So this is where you want to start the main cleaning now. So once you start temporary with the data, you are already performing cleaning. So let me use the same markdown and then shift and enter. Enter again, so that I will know at which point I'm doing what. Okay, so just a brief note under this. There are multiple ways, just in case discover. So I will not say these are the only ways. There are multiple ways to handle what? Missing data in a data frame. So such as 1, such as number 1 method we are going to use is what? The dots, or using, let me use that word, using the dot drop now. Using dot drop now is a function. Method to remove rows or columns with missing data. So this is one of the methods. So another method, which is 2, using the dot fill now. filter using the dot filter method to impute, because we have two decisions to make, either to delete or to what? To impute. So where you want to delete, you use what? Drop now. Where you want to replace or impute, you use dot filter to impute missing. To impute missing data. So our first task, let's say task 1 is drop rows with null value. That is our first task. Drop rows with null value. So how do we solve this? Solution as my syntax will be, I'm working with the what? The customer. So CUS tab. I'm working with this one, not the raw. Working with this. Call the name of the data set. Concatenate it with what? Drop now method. So what this will do is to automatically delete. So you see the reason why we save that raw data now. If you know, once you start deleting now, you want to use the other maybe filter now, you have issue with which data, because then you no longer be having what? The missing value. So if I run this, so you can see it outputted it, but this time around, all the rows where you have missing value are what? Deleted. Exactly. So let me give us a few minutes to get to this place also. All right. So the next thing we want to do now is, the next task is, or just take this note, write it, note. The index value are skipping the drop rows. Have you not noticed that? Look at the number. The index values are what? Skipping the drop rows. That is your numbering. So that is one thing you will notice. But you can fix this by adding reset index. Okay, let me put it here as a comment, as notes. Observation. Observation after running the code. The index values are skipping the drop rows, but you can fix this. But you can fix it by adding dot reset underscore index function. That is how you resolve it. So which means that I will just come here and concatenate what? That attribute, that function. Reset underscore index underscore index, and then I run it again. You can see that what they are now arranged 0, 1, what 2, 3. Huh? No. We are coming to that. Don't worry. We are coming to that. If this is the final data, we will definitely what save it in a variable. So at the end of the day, now, if you would like to make reference, if you like to have just this one as one of the data frame, then you have to store it in. So let's say we want that, right? I think it's necessary, right? Let's say we want that. Because this is expected to be, okay, let's do that. Let's add that to make more sense. So make the output, as a valid reference. That is what we can reference data frame. We will now save it. So we will now say, okay, the new one should be, let's say, final. You understand? For example, final equals to, you copy the whole of the code that generated the display copy, Control C, and then place it here, then run it. So now, if I want to see this copy, I will just call what? Final. So which means that it's not just a displayed what? Output. It's now a valid data frame within my notebook. Go up. All right. Now, the next we want to do is dropping column instead of the row. Remember that we drop the rows where you have, or let me say the criteria we use in dropping all the rows with NaN was based on what? Rows. Now, if the criteria should be based on column, that is what? Only column where you have NaN that should be deleted, not row now. Now, for example, now we have age, right? Under age, there was NaN, right? So the whole of that column, everything there will have been removed. So if the condition is any column where you have missing value, delete the whole column. How do you go about that? So that is the next task we want to perform now. So it becomes how to delete column with NaN, which is translated to what? Missing values. Which is translated to missing values. The syntax is going to be, the syntax will be the name of the data set, so let me copy the syntax I use here. I'll tell you what you will do. Just because you are referencing column instead of what? Row. Control C. Now, if your focus, listen, if the focus is you are deleting column, sorry, you are deleting what? NaN based on column. We just come inside that N, inside what? That drop NaN and say what? As is S what? SIS, thank you. Equals to 1. That is the only thing that we add. So if I run it now, look at it, the same record. Now, age is no longer there. Follower is no longer there because those two columns have what? So just take note of the little differences. So apply also. All right. So now let's look at, remember, out of the decision that's available to us, let me go back to where we are drawing this from. Here, all values should be what? None. There's a place where exactly I said is either we, okay, here. Value missing using what? .if, okay. Resolve them. This was to be what? Resolve them by either removing them or what? So we have practiced what? The one for removing both row and what? Column. Now we want to practice for what? If, for example, we are not meant to remove the missing value, we are asked to replace them with maybe it's 0, which means 0, right? So that the Python will stop seeing them as missing value. Because if this one is missing value, let's say you get to the aggregate analysis section where you want to add the value. When you get to where you have NaN, that is going to cause the code to throw error. So let's quickly look at how to resolve them by imputing. So how to replace all the missing values. All the missing values with constant number. It could be string or string. I can decide to say where I have all the missing value should be represented with what? Missing. As in writing the word missing. So what will be the syntax? The syntax here will be the name of the data set, which is cost tab. So I'm still working with what? This. Concatenate it with what? .fill. Now, if it is an integer you want to replace wherever you have the missing value. For example, let me start with string. Because I know from our data analysis class, we are used to replacing with integer. So if it is string, whatever value you are supplying must also be in quotes. So I will say, okay, replace anywhere there is missing value. Let it be what? Written as what? Missing, instead of what? NaN. So you can see it now, missing. Look at this here. So you can now see all the places where we had NaN, they are now what? Missing. So this is more descriptive. So this tells you that, oh, something is missing here. Because it's not everybody that understands that NaN. Now, if I want a constant value, which is what? 0. Is there any need for me to quote it? No, because I am using what? Number type. So I will just put it there and run it, and then all of them. In fact, this is the one you are supposed to save as final. Because that one that we save as final was only the ones that we have removed because it was not the complete data set. So this one will be saved as what? Final 2. So let me just use final 2. So it's between me, I know what each of them represent. But because of my analysis, I can reference any of them. Final 2. Are you with me? Can we proceed? Mr. Moore?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, I want us to do something here. Look up. Don't worry, we'll stop. You see this age now. We have 25 point what? 0. We have 33 point what? 0. Now we want to round them up. Now, the reason why I am running some of this code might not really make sense, but just to expose you to some logic. That is the reason why I'm intentionally running some of these things. So now let's look at that as that might be our last task so that it will not be too much. I don't know if the speed is too much. Okay. Okay. The speed is okay, right? Okay, good. Now, how to update. How to update. So we are focusing on age. Let me call age. How to update age column. How to update age column. That is, what is our objective? That is, by rounding up the values, by rounding up the value with dots mean. What is mean in Python? Average, right? Because we don't have any inbuilt function in Python known as what? Average. So we use mean. So we want to use average to round up this name. By the time we get the output, you understand what exactly we are targeting. So how do we write the code? Syntax as the solution. Syntax. So we are going to use a function called what? Round. That is the focus. So that you know that there's a function called what? Round, and what you can do with it. So you simply type what? Round, the function. Round. Then you will now call the name of the data frame with the age, which is what? Cos. Okay, let's use the final. Final what? Final 2. Okay. Okay, so let me go that way. So round final 2, right? Final 2 dots h. I believe we know what this means. That's what from final 2, select what? H. Select H. Select H dot final dot final. Then inside the final, so we call the final 2 again. Dot H. Yes. Okay, that I'm calling it twice. I hope I'm not repeated. I call final what? No. That is twice. I'm calling it twice in this case. No. Where did I start with the first one? Final. No, what I'm supposed to do is the bracket of the round. Hope I've not deleted it. Good. Let me add it. Then while you are seeing inside, you add dot mean. Dot mean. And then the dot mean also carry its own bracket. So if I run it, let's see if it's not going to. So what is the issue here? Must specify what? Final value. Okay, I did not put anything inside the final. Did not put anything as 0. Okay, so we got it wrong. Did it all work? No, not put 0. So what we are supposed to pass into the final, where's the final bracket? Here, right? This dot me, that dot me need to be inside the final. Wait, let me see, so that I can get it right. So once you miss it. So this is the final. So inside the final, so you can see the reason why we are going to call it again, because the final was inside the round. Now, inside the final, there must be final again dot the age that is going to round up. So that's the reason why I was calling it twice, final 2, because this one is inside the final. The other one is inside what? The round. Did you understand it now?
So you're right the first time.
Yes. So now, after this, so after this age now, it is this age that I will now concatenate what? The mean. So before I close the bracket for this one is for the final, while this one is for the round. So if I run it now, perfect. So you can see that what we have here now, how is it different from what we had before? Let's check the value there. Let's go back to the data. So what this is supposed to do for you is that if you have like maybe 19.1, 19.2, so it calculates the average. What do we have under 25.0, 9.0? No, you just to round up the value. Unfortunately, you don't have any. They are all 0 now. They are all whole numbers. Yeah. And even you have, let's say 19.5, it will round it up to what? To 1 decimal unit. That is what it's doing now. But unfortunately, we don't have any value that corresponds with our intention. So it's just for you to know that there's a function called what? Round, where you have such value. You can try it where you have a data set that have, let's say, 20.25, 20.65. It's going to run it up to 0, which means that it will add, the way we learned it in school now, if we have, let's say, 52.55, what will now be? 53. Good. That's exactly what this does. So you pick the column, because as we continue, there's another data set we will call that will have this scenario whereby we want to round it up before we pass it into model. So then I will now repeat this code. So even if it doesn't match with this, as we proceed, we are going to see where we will apply this concept. So let's write it down.
Your Excellencies, as it is right now, the particular column where we know need to be rounded up.
Exactly.
Example A, but it might not be only A.
It might be income, it might be profits.
We are the ones to pick them out.
That header.
And then.
Good. So is that header? In this case now, I can pick income. If I have any number, maybe like decimal, to round it up to a particular, to 1 decimal unit, or to whole number rather. Any questions so far? So time will not permit us to get to, if I start this topic now, we will not really finish it. Remember, let me just tell us where we are going to start from so that you can write it down in our next class, so that you know what and what is left. Look up here. Number 2, all values should be what? Numeric. And I said under this, we shall be doing what? Shall be converting field. So our next class will be what? We start with converting field to numeric. Write it down in your notes. Fine, let me put it here. So that will be our next class. We'll start from there. So let's take the beginning part of it slow and steady, please. I understand that just once in a week, but it is better we understand it. So we look at Yeah, converting text field, right? To numeric. Good. Converting text field to numeric. Any question? Any question? So your assignment is to look for different data sets. Search, you can go, maybe you can pick any of the data sets you have. And where you have NaN, use it to, if you can find. If you cannot find, just practice it again to make sure that all these syntax are registered in your